Okay. Hey guys. Okay, so let's start another talk. And you already know Dushky from Parallel Polis Conference, and now we will talk about why is blockchain useless for governments, or maybe
It's super useful.
Oh, okay.
I love governments.
Let's go, Dushky.
Okay, guys. Hi. Who was traveling in the bus tonight? Okay, a lot of you. Okay, perfect. So we need to do something first. We're gonna call the god of crypto. So please, everybody, stand up. Stand up. And first thing you're gonna do, raise both of your hands to the up. Yeah, I love this kind of crypto sect. Yeah. And now everybody turn to the right. Yes, somebody doesn't know who's right, but yeah, it's okay. And now place your hand on the shoulders of the people in front of you and start massaging them. Give them some massage. So everybody who was traveling tonight needs some kind of caring, you know? They really need it. Give them some love, some care. Yes, that's what I like. Amazing. And now raise hands again, turn to the left, and do the same on the opposite side. Yes. And you can do some like chop, like a pizza, you know? And yes, exactly. Some love, some care. Perfect. Thank you very much, guys. And now let's continue. Let's jump into our presentation. I hope you're energized a bit because the lady in the back is sleeping a lot. Yeah. What's her name? Yes. Susanna. Is it better now? Thank you, Susanna. Perfect. Susanna approves, and let's go. So, blockchain for governments. Guys, I love this topic. Never done it before, but this is like the thing that people are talking about, right? So what does government want from us? You can see the GIF. It's super self-explanatory. This is what governments want, and they want to use the blockchain as kind of a buzzword, how to get money from us and pay more taxes, use more money like in the less transparent way. And my answer for this is, please, no. God, no, don't. Just don't do that, right? Because the blockchain and Bitcoin was created to help us save ourselves from governments. It's a tool for freedom, for independence, and it's a tool for fighting the government. And government will not fight itself, right? So it doesn't make sense for government to use blockchain in any way. And this is the end of my presentation. Go home. Thank you very much. No. We're gonna explain a little bit more because we want to understand what the blockchain is, right? And then hopefully in the end you will understand that this GIF is totally fucking right. So, putting blockchain in government, it's like wanting to make people fly by banning gravitation. How stupid it is. You know, government wants to make justice and they think that regulation will make it. No, it will not, right? Just don't trust them. Don't trust this guy. Look at him. What he's doing, right? That's him. So, just to tell something about myself. My name is Dushky. It's not my real name. My name is Dushan, but everybody calls me Dushky, so just call me Dushky. I'm a huge fan of mathematics. From 6 years old, my dad just brought me to math. Who loves math? Yeah. Crystal meth is much better math, yeah. We're gonna go on LibertyCon, let's leave it later. Okay, right now, mathematics. I just fell in love with it, and I was teaching math for 3 years. Loved it so much. I got into crypto about 2 and something years ago, and when my friend just told me he's into crypto, I was like, oh my god, everybody's talking about it, just tell me something more. And I fell in love with it. I just fell in love with it. And I told to my guys in the company that, guys, I'm taking 2 weeks vacation. You will not see me for 2 weeks. I'm going to study. So I just closed myself in my home like in a cave. And I was just reading all the stuff and watching all the stuff and just, I love these educational things. So I just fell in love with crypto, and since then I started to educate people. Since I love education, I love speaking, I love giving lectures and all this stuff. So this is what I do. And we found a Parallel Polis, which we already talked about, and it's a beautiful place. When you're going to be in Bratislava or Prague, just visit us, guys. So I'm an ideator. It's not a radiator, right? So I'm not like a work guy. It's ideator. It means like I love to develop ideas, to start new things, ignite ideas, put people together. I'm a crypto fan. Everything comes with crypto. I'm like a huge fan of it. Actually, like 1 month ago, I made a stamp which says Bitcoin is better, and I stamp the euro notes, bank notes, and like give it to anybody, you know. And sometimes they say like, "What is this shit?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just got it." So I'm just spreading the idea of Bitcoin on the euro bank notes. I can lend you. I didn't bring it now. Never mind. When you come to Bratislava, I will stamp a few of your notes. I'm an educator. I already said that. And I love exponential technologies, all the AI and genetics and all the stuff. I love to consume it and think about it. So that's me. I also need to say who I'm not. So who is Dushky? No one, Dushka. I'm not a guru, right? So I'm not the guy who will like tell you this is how it's gonna be and this is how future will look like. I'm also not, I don't have a crystal ball, right? So I don't know the price of Bitcoin in 1 year. I don't know when the moon is gonna come. If I would know, I would keep it for myself, of course. And also, I'm not the OVB and this advisory, financially advisory guy. So everything I say, just don't believe me, okay? So what the fuck is blockchain, right? What the fuck is blockchain? Everybody thinks blockchain is Bitcoin, Bitcoin is blockchain. We have a mess in that, right? So we need to make some distinctions. So blockchain is was born with Bitcoin, right? So blockchain is a really essential part of Bitcoin. It wasn't invented before. It's like invention one that's kind of breathing together, right? So blockchain cannot work properly without Bitcoin, right? So in order for Bitcoin as a network to work properly, we needed to invent some kind of technology, some kind of distributed, decentralized database technology that will be resistant to censorship, resistant to attacks. And so Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009 came with this idea of this database structure, and it was afterwards named blockchain, because it was something different than we had before, right? But we need to understand decentralization doesn't mean blockchain, right? We had decentralized network before, like BitTorrent, and BitTorrent doesn't have blockchain. So anytime in the future when you will hear somebody speaking, oh, let's make this decentralized, let's put blockchain inside, just have some alert here in your head like, oh no, wait a bit, we don't need blockchain most of the time, right? Blockchain is mostly used for cryptocurrencies, and almost all of the times when it's not used with crypto, it's a bullshit, right? And government does double bullshit. So Bitcoin was born. How the Bitcoin looks like? Bitcoin is a network, right? It's not just a coin, it's not just some kind of weird stuff. One more time? No,
It's Australia.
I have no idea, man. No idea. I just randomly take it from Google.
Wow.
Yeah. No source. I'm stealing it. So, this is a Bitcoin network, right? Maybe not, but this is how it looks like normal. These are decentralized networks. When you don't have a central point, a server, you have different types of computers running the nodes, running the software, having the blockchain, having the database inside of them. This is how it looks like. And since this shit is distributed and the infos are running all over the place, it's not like in a bank system when you ask one server, the server gives you answer. No. The data, the transactional data are flowing around randomly. For example, my telephone, I send the transaction to my bear, and the bear gets the transaction maybe after somebody else gets the transaction. So it's spreading in a randomized way. So if all of us are part of Bitcoin, the number or the order of transaction that we get in the first place, it will be different. And we needed to make sure that all of us have the same order. And this was the problem. So imagine this situation. This will be a situation today in the LibertyCon. So you have a guy, a dude, let's call it will be Mario. Yeah. So we have Mario here, smiley face with a Bitcoin in his head, and Mario wants to buy a beer, right? But Mario's not drinking. So Mario wants to buy some meth, right? No.
Just weed, okay.
Just weed. Mario wants to buy some weed. So he goes to a weed shop, yeah? And Mario wants to buy this weed with Bitcoin. What does he do? He sends his transaction, and this transaction data goes to the first node. So the first node gets the data and looks to the blockchain, to the database, and checks, is Mario capable of sending this transaction? Does he have this Bitcoin? The node says yes, and the node sends the transaction data to other node that it is connected. The node says the same. Oh, Mario, does he have the Bitcoin? Yes, he does. So he sends the data to other nodes that are connected with this one, and so on. But Mario is a smart guy. He wants to eat as well, because, you know, when you smoke weed, you need to eat a lot, and drink as well. So Mario wants to buy a pizza. And he said like, ooh, this one Bitcoin was not spent yet, was not put into blockchain because it's just spreading around. So let's buy a pizza with the same one. And this transaction he sends to a different node, but this node didn't get the data that the Bitcoin was already spent. So this node says, wow, Mario still has the Bitcoin. So yes, it's a valid transaction. I will send the data to another node. This one node also didn't get the information of the beer or of the weed, so he sends the transaction elsewhere. But here comes the problem. This node already has the transaction information about buying pizza, but this node is telling it, no, Mario, use this Bitcoin to buy weed instead. And here comes the problem. You cannot buy weed and pizza with the same Bitcoin, right? If you're high, you can, but you're not high, right? You just buy it. So here comes the problem of decentralized networks. How can we have the same history? How can we have the same ledger of transactions when we have distributed network without a central point? This was a big thing that need to be solved. And the question is, so who's the authority then, right? So who guarantees what order did the transaction happen? And how do I know how many Bitcoins I have for the week? It's important, right? I need to know. So the answer is Mr. Blockchain. Yeah, that's Mr. Blockchain. This is how he looks like. But since we know that the world is run by girls, I definitely think it's Mrs. Blockchain. And it's like a tough girl, right? So Mrs. Blockchain. If the blockchain would be person, this would be it. Blockchain. It is really simply block and chain. Done. Easy. It's the chain of blocks. Bitcoin blockchain is decentralized and distributed public database of immutable records. Let's translate. Decentralized means it doesn't have central authority. It doesn't have any one person or agency or foundation who is running it, right? It belongs to people, it belongs to everybody who's dealing with Bitcoin, the same as BitTorrent. That's why the torrents were not shut down yet, because it's decentralized network. You should have, or when you want to stop it, you need to cut or destroy all the nodes in the network. Distributed, it means that the blockchain as a database is distributed into all of these nodes, all of these computers. It doesn't mean it's on the one place and everybody's connected there. No, it's distributed. The same copy goes to every participant. It's public, anybody can see it. Anybody can see the whole transaction data, the history, and can check everything. And the records are immutable. It means you cannot change the history. Whatever is there, it's practically impossible to change, right? So this is really important to know. This is what a blockchain is, and the reason behind it, we wanted to avoid censorship from government. This was the idea behind Bitcoin, behind blockchain. It's the one thing I told you, it's a living thing together. So, the best description of it is a ledger. Who doesn't speak English well? The ledger is this book that your bookkeeper in your business has. And in the ledger, you have all the information about who sends how many euros, bitcoins, whatever, to whom, right? So you have just the records transactional data. You don't have money inside of this, right? You don't put dollars inside. You just put who needs to send to who what, or who sent bitcoins to who. So the entire blockchain is like entire ledger, entire book of all this transactional data. One block of the blockchain is the one page of the ledger, and one transaction in the blockchain is like one entry into the ledger. And the blockchain grows. Still, it grows. Another good explanation is a train. A train with endless or almost endless many of these wagons or carriages. When a new block is created, it's added to the last block. It's connected with a digital wax. So they are connected together. I will show you how. And this train is endlessly growing. Yeah? So if you want to change something in the train, you need to put another transaction, another block, another data in this train. You cannot erase from it, because if you will somehow take one carriage away, the whole network would understand that something happened. So it's really immutable of change, because everybody would see that difference happened. Here's how it looks like, simplified, in a simplified way. Block, it causes transactions with a timestamp when it happened, and important thing is hash of the previous block. Hash of the previous block, because that's the way how to connect it to the previous one. Hash, what is it? We spoke about wheat, right? So when I was searching about hash, this is something that came out. I don't know, it's some kind of a flapjack or some crowbar, no idea. This just came around. So no, this is not a hash. Hash function, and specifically SHA-256, is a special function that does something like this. You take a piece of data, any piece of data. You can take a few words, you can take the whole book, and it translates the whole piece of data into a predefined set of strings. So the set of strings is the same amount of letters, of characters, but it's totally different. It looks totally random. It is totally random. And here, when you change just one letter in one, for example, from 0 you go to 1, the whole hash changes, right? So it's not like you change some small character and the difference will be just one letter here. No, it changes a lot. And this is called a one-way function. I call it digital excrement. Why digital excrement? Because imagine you eat something, you know, and then you go to the toilet, it goes out, and you cannot build from what your shit. You cannot build what you ate, right? You eat a pizza and McDonald's and whatever, and when you take the shit, you cannot put it together. So it's a one-way function. When you put your shit back there, you know, it doesn't go out, right? I hope. Don't try it at home. So a digital excrement, one-way function. And the best way to show it is like this. We don't have the volume, the voice, can we do it somehow? Let's try it. Anyway, I will show you it again. Just try it out. Never mind, we can just see the video and I will just speak about that. It's okay, Mario, I will play it. You need to click into presentation. Yes.
The trick is based on two factors. One, it's easy to mix two colors together to make a third color. And two, given a mixed color, it's hard to reverse it in order to find the exact original colors.
Did you get it? So it's really easy to mix two colors to get the third one. It's pretty simple, right? But if I give you a color like beautiful color of this teddy bear, the orange one, and I would ask you like which two colors did I mix? You only need to kind of try it out. You put two together. Will you get this one? Maybe yes, maybe no. You need to try it out. So there's no process to reverse the function. So this is like one of the most important parts in Bitcoin or in the whole cryptography, one-way functions. Okay, let's go back to blockchain. Blockchain, as I told, database without central authority. It's a ledger that you cannot erase from. It grows endlessly. Right now, the Bitcoin blockchain, I think it has about 190 gigabytes of data. Anybody can check if the data was manipulated, right? So if there's some change, you can really easily see that the change happened. It's resistant to attacks. The whole Bitcoin network, by the mining process, I will tell you about it later, is resistant to attacks because we wanted to create a database or network that is resistant to censorship. It's relatively slow. The Bitcoin can process about 7 transactions per second. It's not that much, but right now there are some scaling solutions in practice. And it's an expensive database. It requires a lot of energy to maintain with mining. And it's made for cases where you don't want the third party to interact or to kind of be the one central point that can fail. And it's ideal when we are afraid of censorship, like with governments. So, how do the entries get to the ledger? We told you there is no authority, right? So there's nobody who has the right to, oh, I will be the one that's putting it there all the time. How do they get to the ledger? And who has the right to make an entry and add a new page, add a new block? In Bitcoin, approximately every 10 minutes, it's one winning miner. What does it mean by winning miner? Mining, it's a concept of keeping the blockchain or keeping the Bitcoin safe and keeping the structure in place resistant to attacks. This is how the mining things look like. I think how it's just putting it up. Yes, we can give it to people so that they can touch it. So this is how the mining chip looks like. Check it out, and I will show you what the mining chip is doing. Pretty simple stuff. So mining, so that you will understand when your grandma will ask you, what is the mining thing? You will understand. You can explain it. So mining is a competition to put transaction into the order. So the miners are competing to be the first one who gets the solution to equation and order the transaction. And the blockchain is the output of this process. So the blockchain is also kind of like an extra end of this process of mining. Mining is a business of keeping the whole blockchain, whole Bitcoin safe, and the process of it is blockchain. It's the same as, for example, you have a lock on your door. If you wouldn't need the lock, you wouldn't have it there. You wouldn't use your money to buy a lock. But if you want to keep your house safe, you need to have a lock there. Blockchain is there to keep the Bitcoin safe, and the miners are there to keep the Bitcoin safe as well. So mining is a service that keeps the network safe and resistant to attacks. I know you're tired, but I think this one is pretty simple, right? Hopefully. You love math, right? So how to get this equation right? You just go to the previous way. So you go 6 minus 2 is 4. Pretty simple stuff. When you have something like this, from head, it's more difficult, but still, you just put it to calculator backwards. That number minus that number, you get the answer. But in Bitcoin, it's a bit different in blockchain. You get some sort of hash there plus something, and you need to get that thing. This is a one-way function, as I told you guys. You cannot reverse it. The Bitcoin is asking you to find a solution, find a number where in the beginning you have, for example, 20 zeros. It's a pretty tough challenge. And the first one who finds this answer is the winner, gets the reward, and puts the new block into the ledger. This one thing is called the nonce. And the chip I gave you is the chip that's trying the nonce billion times per second and trying it out. The same as with the color. It's mixing two colors together to find the third one. You cannot reverse it, you just need to try out and mix and mix and mix. And again and again. So in Bitcoin, in blockchain, you have a pool of transactions. I told you. Mario, one transaction goes to the wheat guy, one to the pizza guy. And these transactions firstly come to a huge pool of transactions. That's where is the place for unconfirmed transactions. These transactions get there, and what the miners does, they took a bucket with a size of approximately 1 megabyte, sometimes 2 megabytes, and they take transactions, unconfirmed transactions, out of this pool, and they go and try to verify them, try to find the solution to the equation. So they take transactions, then they put inside the block reward for them, so when they find the solution, they got 12.5 bitcoins for it right now. Next year it's going to go to half. After 4 years, it's going to go to half again. And plus this, they put a hash of previous block. I told you, it's a digital wax that connects the block together and creates the blockchain. And they put everything this together, they hash it and put it to the 1 megabyte bucket. And with this bucket, they hash it again and create this type of hash. And now the solution comes. So they need to find, as I showed you before, they need to find a solution to this equation. And that's what mining is about, trying to find the nonce and trying to find solution. So the first miner who finds the solution to this one-way function gets the reward, adds a new block to the blockchain, and sends the proof, the nonce, the number, sends it to the entire network so anybody can verify that he found the answer. Pretty simple, right? Did you get the blockchain? Yes? Somebody didn't? Do you want pizza? Do you want wheat? No? I had to. Yes. Yeah. So blockchain. One beautifully said thing from my colleague Hubble yesterday in the bus. The blockchain is like an excrement when you're eating. We have excrement here in this presentation all over the place, right? The first one was the government. Yes. So for example, when you take food, imagine you have two types of food. One food is you eat it and you don't shit. Pretty right. The second type of food you eat and you shit. Yeah, that's the normal way. But if you could choose out of this, you would change the one without needing to shit. And the same goes with the blockchain. You have mining, the service for keeping the database safe. If there would be solution without the blockchain, we would grab it. We need this solution. But solution for making the database or making the network safe and resistant and censorship resistant needs blockchain. So blockchain is like a shit out of this process. If in future we find solution without blockchain, it's going to be much more effective. But right now, the only one that is effective and is safe is Bitcoin with the blockchain as a product of mining, right? So remember this shitty image. And let's get back to blockchain for governments. So right now, what you understand, hopefully, is how blockchain works. Why blockchain was created, to really help us stay away from governments and have our decentralized network that runs without the need of third party and without the probability of getting hacked or getting censored in the network. In Bitcoin, you can send your money, your Bitcoin, your value in freedom without any permission to anybody in the world, right? So it's a network that's parallel, it's Parallel Polis. It's parallel to our financial system. And putting blockchain into governmental services, it's a buzzword and it's a way of how to get or how to use the public money and how to transfer public money into companies that are connected with the government. It's like one mafia together, and they just use it really in a non-effective way. One thing that government thinks that should be effective to put into blockchain is the record of houses, right? The property, the real estate, a database, and so on. Like everybody's like, oh yeah, let's put this into blockchain. It's going to be amazing. But there's one big but, the huge one. The thing is, when you have a property, when you have something physical, anything can, what? No, nothing. Okay. When you have something physical and you want to put it into blockchain, and you want to put it into blockchain that's decentralized, that its blockchain should be, then anybody can transact its property to anybody. If I own the private key to my property, to my token of the property, I can send it to anybody, right? But in the physical world, it works a bit different. You have houses, they got demolished, you have floods, you have catastrophe or the environmental stuff that can happen to the house, you have executors, and all these kind of things that can happen to the house. But who afterwards will tell, okay, this house got damaged, got destroyed, let's write it into blockchain. And me as a guy who owns the private key, I will say, no, I don't want to say to blockchain that my house is destroyed, I want to sell it as the proper house, right? So this kind of like paradox where governments want their services or need their services to be centralized. Governments will be the one that says, oh, this house will go to that person, or this one is damaged, this one goes to execution, or whatever, right? It's really their stuff. And thinking of putting it to blockchain doesn't make sense. Everything that goes out of the digital world, out of the ones and zeros, goes to the outside world, is really tough and impractical to use blockchain on it. And many times, when government is telling you, or other companies are telling you, you can use blockchain for this, many times, almost all of the times, the most effective way is to use different type of database. It might be transparent. You might show the transaction data, you might open up to public, but don't use blockchain. It's not effective, it's slow, it's hard to scale, it's expensive, and it solves only one thing mostly, having the network for sending value, almost nothing else. And also, there's the GDPR. You love these words, you love these 4 letters, right? It's amazing, it's like I dream about it. GDPR, this kind of shit that's in place makes the government breaking the law if they will put some data, some of your personal data, even if they're encrypted, into blockchain, into public blockchain. When they do it, they break the GDPR. It's like this, right? Government against European Union and so on. So either way, if the government wants to use blockchain, they either break the GDPR or they need to get out of, for example, Slovakia should go out of the European Union and then use blockchain happily. And it's like twist in your head that doesn't make sense, and it's just mostly waste of public money. Guys, that was ideas from my side. Now raise questions. Raise questions, and yeah, Pablo, question. What? This one? No.
Okay.
No, you can.
I don't have question. I just want to say that this is the best presentation I have seen from you so far. Seriously, you upgraded your skills from explaining technical stuff correctly and clearly. So, yeah, big applause.
How approved.
He likes shit.
I'm afraid now to spend some time with him. Yeah, many questions. Question number 1.
When we were speaking about the government, did you mean some particular government or just in general? Okay.
Government is an institution that's running the state, and it helps, or it brings really shitty, mostly shitty people in the top positions where they want to run you and when they want to keep power over you. And I'm on a stream, and I will be happy that some people will then send me some messages about this. But whatever, this is mostly true, right? So the government thing really wants to keep power, and the government doesn't want to give power to people because then they're losing taxes, power, and so on. You know, the governments are the same. Some are like more strict in this way, some are less, but all around it, it's the same shit.
Thank you.
Question?
Hi. So
Hi.
you mentioned that a blockchain can be used to, well, this case, censorship on behalf of people who would be interested in doing so.
Mm-hmm.
But could the government also use it to scale public accountability? Like, for example, well, I suppose they don't really like movements like yours.
Of course they don't.
Yes. And
If I got arrested, please send me some bitcoins to get out of the jail.
and well, for now, from what I understood, you're still quite small, but I get.
Yeah, I'm just really short. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. But well, let's generalize to movements that the government doesn't like,
Mm-hmm.
and if the government would start to subvert them or attempt to subvert them through, say, traditional means, they would be exposed to being exposed. So somebody finding out, okay, these guys are financing, let's say, people inside these movements to subvert them and make them dysfunctional. Whereas from my poor understanding of blockchain and Bitcoin and so on, they could do it without being while not being under the radar. So let's say they would start financing, some of you guys, one of you, like to slowly
Disrupt.
corrupt you guys or disrupt you, something of the sort. Or maybe not, if not within the country, maybe if one country is interested in regime change in another country, maybe not for the better, they could do so by blockchain. So it's a reality.
Might happen, right? So the corruption thing, yeah, it's really friendly with the government. If you are a corruptible person, it doesn't mean if you get corrupted by dollars, euros, Bitcoin, whatever. But interesting thing is that if you, for example, let's say you are using Monero for this anonymized cryptocurrency or anonymous cryptocurrency. For example, I say I send my Monero address to a prime minister who wants to bribe me, right? And he sends like 100 Moneros to my address, and I tell him I didn't get them, and he cannot prove that I didn't get them, right? I send him like something happened. Send me another 100. Maybe it's gonna come, right? So it's a system where you really cannot, or you don't need to reveal your identity. And this tool, imagine like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, it's a tool. It's the same tool as, for example, you have this in physics, the atoms,
Fission.
Fission, maybe on fission.
Fusion.
Not fusion,
Fission, not fusion.
Okay, when you have atoms and you like splitting the atoms. Yes, splitting the atoms. You have splitting the atoms, right? It's a neutral technology. You can either use it for good purposes, and you can create energy in fusion reactors and so on, or in these uranium reactors, or you can use it for great purposes with atom bombs and so on. The same goes with Bitcoin. It's a network where you can either bribe somebody, buy some weed and drugs and sex and more sex and harder sex, assassination, whatever, or you can freely send your money to your family without the need to pay 20% commission to a third party, and happening it instantly in a few seconds or in a few minutes. You can support your family in the other part of the world, and they can, without the need to opening a bank account, function in this environment, right? So it's technology that really, it's liberating technology, and you decide how you're going to use it.
So in the long run, will possibly get more use, more adaptive, because now it's more of an underground thing still, right?
Not anymore so much.
Yeah, I know big banks are also starting to use blockchain and so on, but well, eventually if it gets used, say, as widely
Traction and so
the internet is. So initially, the internet was also, enormous hype about, being this true thing for liberty and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So in the long run, could the same happen with blockchain? So like, now we have super regulated internet that used to, feed us with, a lot of bullshit about, should be, should not be done.
Yeah, I understand. The governments will try to regulate, will try to ban some things, will try to get their hands on it, but the technology was set up in a way where it's almost like non-possible, right? So the design was mostly for being censorship resistant, and the Satoshi who created it did it fucking well done, right? So right now it's tool for liberty that works for 10 years without being hacked, working 24/7 and having the value of $80 billion, right, at this moment. So it's really a tool that's working. And when it's going to spread and the more people will come in, it will get stronger and larger, and more applications will be built on the network, because I see blockchain or I see Bitcoin as the first layer. The same as, for example, TCP/IP protocols in the internet. You don't care about it right now. You just open your messenger and send some information to somebody, send some message. You don't care what's underneath, under the roof, under the hood. I believe in a few years this happens with Bitcoin as well. You will just open up an application, go to a wheat shop or pizza shop, you just pay with it. You will not see it as, oh, this is hard technology for me. It will be instant or trivial for us. For our children, I believe it's going to be natural, because imagine a post services, right? In few years back, the postman was traveling a lot, the cost was really high, you needed to pay for all the mails and so on. Right now, you have email. Instant, cheap, you don't pay anything, around the world, in seconds, and we don't see email as something like, wow, email anymore, right? It's like a natural part of everyday communication. I see this, that Bitcoin is going this way. Our children will see like, how our parents could use this shitty paper money that got stolen, that got robbed, that you can copy them, you needed to pay 10% of fee to anybody, it take 1 week to arrive from Slovakia to Panama. Like, how come, right? I believe this.
Just want to add maybe, and isn't it that with more and more technology, the shift sits toward the individuals and to freedom, basically, right? And not that it will be stolen against us, but rather it will be used for your benefit.
Yes, I believe that. And anonymization, and really, Honza was speaking in the beginning about Timothy C. May, the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto. Guys, read it. Read that shit. It's a great. And it's written how we're gonna live our lives in freedom with technologies that cannot be censored, and we're gonna gain our freedom in this cyberspace, because that's the place where governments will not put their hands on. Yeah.
I just want to ask you, I'm curious, according to you, what is the best reply to those who say, well, I like the idea, I like Bitcoin, I like the decentralization and so on, but still, ethically speaking, I cannot accept the fact that I can buy human organs and so on. So I'm just curious about your best reply.
The best reply. There are multiple replies. It's like the same goes with, I would say, religion. Religion cannot make you good person or bad person. Like it's some kind of a tool, and it's up to you to decide. Many people think like, oh, if I will not believe in something, I will be a bad person. It's like, if I use a Bitcoin, I will be a bad person. I will buy organs and stuff. Come on, it's about you. Do you want to buy organs? No. The same goes with drugs. The drugs will be liberated. Will you get high? Maybe yes. But not every day and all the time, right? The same goes with Bitcoin. It's a tool, and you can use it in a good way. You can use it in a bad way, right? And I would tell to these people, like, go to Venezuela and check how it works there. Because there you can see that their fiat money, their national money are fucked up. And they really like wipe their ass with them, because it's much cheaper to do it with the money than to buy toilet paper for them. And this happened with the system that's centralized, where you have a party that's controlling the system and so on. And these people are buying Bitcoin in big volumes because it's a liberation tool for them. So it's a tool, we don't see it in European Union or in Europe so much, because we don't have such a huge problems with it. But when you're sending, for example, these remittances, I hope you know what it is. When people work and they send their money back to their families in Africa, in Middle East, and when the cut goes like 20% down just for the sending it, and it takes a long time, you show them like, here's a network where you can do it almost instantly, almost for free, and why you shouldn't do it. It's a tool for you to solve your problem. If your problem is to buy a gun, the tool can solve it for you as well. but it's up to you to decide. It's your moral. Last question? Okay, last question?
You have raised the problem that Mario double spend his Bitcoin in more places to work on. So I would like to ask how the network deals with it, and in what time, and when is the double spend possible, in what time or not.
Okay, yes.
How is it in real life today?
The double spend attack. Okay, I spent 4 minutes on that. The double spend. Double spend means that it's really simple in digital sphere, in digital era, to copy paste 0 and 1s, right? For example, you can copy paste photographies, some bachelor thesis, right? Whatever, copy paste. And when you send it to 2 separate parties, they will not know that they have the same copy. Yeah. So imagine you're a paparazzi. You take a picture of Mario naked in the shower. Sorry, Mario, for that. And you send it to a newspaper and tell them like you have the unique copy. Nobody else have it, and pay me €1,000 for that. But they cannot know that the same image was not duplicated and sent to other address, right? So this is a double spend attack. When you spend 1 Bitcoin, or when you send the same data, when you duplicate it and send it to 2 different locations. How Bitcoin deal with it? There is a possibility in Bitcoin network to send the same Bitcoin to make the transaction, to send it into variable addresses, right? But these transactions will get to the huge pool I told you about. It's called the mempool. That's a pool of transactions, and then the miners come from. So the miners, and it's called a proof of work algorithm, deals with this double spend attack. So they take the 1 megabyte of packet, and they check firstly if there are no double transactions, or if there are no like conflicting transactions. Yeah, but the first layer goes in the nodes. So the nodes of the network are checking if the transactions are not conflicting. If they find there are some conflicting transaction, they cut the node that sent them this conflicting transaction. And the mining and the getting the transaction to the bucket, and then verifying it and seeing that, okay, these transactions were not spent in the previous time, and there are no 2 transactions spending the same Bitcoin. If this happens, then afterwards the block is created, and if the next transaction that is still in the mempool and is trying to be double spended, then the miners and all the network can understand like, okay, this Bitcoin was already spent, so they will not include this transaction into the block that's creating. Is it okay like this?
And in real life, how much time does it take until it's final?
Until it's final. So the Bitcoin blocks are created almost every 10 minutes approximately. And it depends on the fee that you attach to your transaction. The fee goes to the miner. The higher the fee, the faster you will be in the block. So you can go in the next block. Or if the fee is really low, what happens, for example, 2 days ago, my transaction was traveling like 7 hours when the fee was low, right? So when it's in the mempool, it still can be double spent. So in Bitcoin, it's important when you want to be sure that your money will not be spent again. Or for example, I'm selling the car to somebody for Bitcoin. He claims that, oh, I sent it to you, give me the keys from your car. I will say, no, I will wait about 6 confirmations, 6 blocks. And when I see that the transaction is there and 6 blocks are ahead of it, then I say, okay, now the Bitcoin will not be spent or will not be double spent. I will give you the keys, right? So I will wait about 1 hour for big transaction. For small transaction, for example, in our Parallel Polis, when you're paying a coffee, you just pay it. The terminal understands that the transaction was sent into network in like 2 seconds or 3 seconds. It shows paid, but the transaction is still possible to double spend. But the amount of money that you would need to double spend the transaction is not equal or is much higher than what you paid for the coffee. So it's really unpractical for you to do. But if we would sell something bigger, then we will wait for confirmation in the blockchain.
What's the maximum time of confirmation?
Maximum time of confirmation.
Forever.
Forever. I mean, like right now, there are about 100,000 blocks. Am I right? I will need to check on Blockchain Explorer, but You can wait until how much you want, but 1 hour in Bitcoin is really okay. It's really okay for whatever big transaction. One confirmation when it's in the block, one confirmation, it's almost practically done and unchangeable, right? So let's say 10 minutes to 30 minutes, depends on the fee.
I'm just curious, you said we waited 7 hours, for example.
Mm-hmm. Why I waited 7 hours? Because when I show you the pool, in the pool there's a lot of transactions. Each transaction has attached a different type of fee. And the miners, they're thinking economically. They take the most expensive transaction because when they find the block, they got the reward, right? So if you set up really small transaction fee, you will be like on the bottom of the pool and nobody will care for you because there will be higher fee transactions and the miners will take by the bucket all the higher fees. Yeah, and this happens when there are a lot of transactions. When there are not a lot of transactions, the miners will take everything was left there, even your transaction. Okay?
So is it possible you send money?
Okay, we need to cut this because it's over. We will talk later on. Guys, I'm really happy I spent some time with you. Thank you very much. These are my contacts here. Appreciate it. We're gonna see each other on LibertyCon. I will be there, we can talk, whatever, buy some pizza, drink some beer, and have fun. Thank you.
Okay, just small reminder. Now, sorry. Okay. Now there's a break waiting for you. So let's make a 15-minute break because Dushky was late, so it will be only 15 minutes, and then we will meet again here for another talk. Thank you, guys.
Nebudeš žádný lunch break? Žádný lunch break? Co to je lunch break? 15 minut. A vy tam jak čas?